Welcome to Made in Montgomery. I'm Susan Kennedy. I'm here at Denizens Brewing Co. in Silver Spring, one of the many small businesses here in Montgomery County. And those small businesses make up the fabric of this community. We recently caught up with some county council members who are working hard to improve the climate for those businesses so they can thrive.
Well, Julie, we're all really proud of your success. As you know, all three of us actually live very close by.
That's true.
Why did you decide to locate here in South Silver Spring?
Well, you know, I think South Silver Spring is a really, really awesome community. It's diverse. There's tons of activities here, but there was sort of a space that was lacking in terms of that extra community space that a brewery brings to a community. And you know, it's funny. Montgomery County has gotten a bad rap over the years about being a place where it's hard to do business here. And I really, truly mean this when I say that this really is the most brewery-friendly jurisdiction in the DMV. I mean, we beat Virginia, we beat DC, we beat every other county in the state of Maryland. And so Silver Spring was just a no-brainer for us.
What kind of conditions do you think people need in order to bring these kind of businesses?
I think the county has actually already done a lot. I mean, just with the law changes last year, that allowed for our business model to be created. You know, we worked with you guys, we worked with the state delegation to get some of those laws changed, so we could have a production brewery with a tap room, and we could self-distribute our beer without having to go through the county. Those are two huge things that changed, those law changes that helped grow this sort of industry. Secondly, in terms of the permitting process, I mean, you got to build out the building. You know, obviously when you're doing construction, things need to be regulated, but having a more straightforward permitting process could be helpful. I also think making sure that in terms of zoning, you're, you know, delegating areas that are, you know, business friendly for this type of company. I mean, we're in a downtown urban area, but we're also light manufacturing. So making sure that you have more zones like that in places where there are folks that live. I mean, when you look around this area, one of the great things about this building is that within a 2-block radius, there's 4,000 apartments and condo units. And those folks that live there want to go somewhere. You know, they need a community space besides their apartments. So I would really just look at zoning, permitting, and then again, making sure you're allowing businesses to grow their companies through self-distribution and continuing the advances in the liquor laws.
Julie, you were able to get economic development assistance from the state of Maryland and from the county. Can you just talk about what kind of assistance that was and what role did that play in the start of your business? It
was actually huge. If it weren't for the local county government, if it weren't for the state of Maryland, we may not have actually opened our doors. We had to, you know, as a startup company, banks are sort of risk averse. They have to be. That's how they keep their money in their banks. But we had a lot of collateral that we could use because you're buying all this manufacturing equipment and whatnot. And the state of Maryland actually has a program called MIDFA, and they gave us a guaranteed back loan. So we went through Eagle Bank, and they gave us, you know, a starter loan for $500,000, and the state of Maryland guaranteed it. They backed it because, you know, the purpose, the public policy behind it is we want to make sure that there are startup companies, especially in the manufacturing sector, to allow them to get their doors open. Soup to nuts, all the purchasing of the equipment / building it out, we spent less than $1 million to get open. And then the county government was able to give us a working capital loan for $75,000 that, you know, helped us get through just those last couple weeks before we get our doors open in terms of cash flow. It was huge. It was huge for us.
Do you find yourself having people come to you and say, how do I do this?
The best piece of advice I can give someone is have multiple partners when you're starting your business. I can tell you there's 4 of us that founded this company together, and if we didn't have each of us in it, we probably wouldn't have been able to succeed.
But yeah, and so brewing's all about sanitation. Yeah. So, you know, with the kegs, with these tubes, and with the gaskets, anything the beer touches has to be completely sanitized.
Talk to me about experimentation with the craft of beer. What are the markers of, you know, a really excellent new type of beer?
We've made over 40 beers since we opened our doors in July of last year. And really, we rely on Jeff Ramirez, who's one of my business partners, one of the other owners. You know, this is his 9th year brewing professionally. So he's been sort of methodically experimenting with craft beer and recipes for a long time, almost a decade. And so his expertise really is what allows us to be able to be creative in all these different types of beers we make.
Can you describe for me what you think the potential of the local brewery scene is?
The amount of jobs that are created locally, the amount of money that's put back into the economy locally is a huge deal. And it's not just a matter of customers coming in here and drinking our beer here in the tap room, or drinking at other bars and restaurants where we sell our products to them wholesale. So these are some of the locations up here if you look on the wall, but these are all the different places that carry our beer, both in Maryland and DC. It's also, the plumbers that we hire, the electricians that we hire, the construction firms that we hire to help build out the space. Buying local is important because it impacts everybody in the community. I mean, we have over 40 full-time employees in our company, and more than half of them live right here in Montgomery County. So, the more we hire them, the more people come here, the more money they're going to make, the more money they're going to spend in the local community.
We're here in a very unique business. It's an urban winery. Your business name is the Urban Winery. You make wine here. Can you talk to me about the vision of local production of wine and of beer and spirits, like local production of alcohol? What could that mean for our community, our county?
Well, as an urban winery, we have the ability to focus on one particular part of the process, and that is the production of. Yeah. We don't necessarily, and the manufacturing of wine, but we don't actually grow it. So the biggest differentiator is that we source our fruit from Maryland. We try to get some Maryland produce first, but we also get them from the best growing regions from around the United States, California and upstate New York, to create varietals and styles of wine that are interesting, unique, with our own personal Maryland flavor. And I think the winemaking process in an urban winery that's what our differentiator is. If you're interested in learning about how wine is made and all the intricate details of labeling and corking and learning about the wines, that's what you're going to come to find here. If you want to go get the farmer agriculture part of that and the rolling hills of the beautiful grapevines, then that's where agriculture really blossoms, and a lot of our great farmers are doing great things. But urban winery, we focus on the process.
I find this all very exciting. The growth of small businesses, I think, is probably the most likely way for us to fill a lot of the empty storefront spaces. And I guess what I would ask you is, why here?
That's a simple question, a simple answer. We live here. We want to invest in our own community. It's a lifestyle change for us. We get to walk to work every day. I get to put my kids to sleep at 8 o'clock and come back and close at 10 o'clock. I go to the bank here. I go to the butcher here. I go to the local farmer to get things. I go to local produce. So everybody, as collectively as a community, is really working off one another. The go local movement isn't a new one. It's certainly just maybe it's riding the wave at this point, but people's attitudes towards how things are made, what quality ingredients are they put into, and where are they coming from? Can they talk to the butcher? Can they talk to the brewer? Can they talk to the winemaker? All of those factors play a part into the way people are buying their products nowadays.
I grew up here, and I remember even as a 5-year-old little girl crushing grapes with my feet in a bucket. I saw the change in Silver Spring and Montgomery County, and decided that that's where we were going to plant our seed. So when we, decided to get married and, start a family, this is where we're going to stay.
We have Fenton Village, which is, I think, one of the most unique business areas in Montgomery County, because it's not the same chain, or it's not the same thing. There's a lot of small business here. A lot of different ethnic backgrounds are represented here, and I think that's where we thrive.
We want to help spread word about you all around the county. Marine Corps veteran, proud of your Greek heritage. You grew up in the winemaking, as a family avocation, and now you're doing it for a living. But how would you, rank your own wine, and have you gotten any external recognition yet? Because the wine really is superb.
I appreciate that, and I'll let, just like any winemaker hopes to hear, and let the wine speak for itself.
We do a Zinfandel every year for my father. So this is his bottle, or so we call it Bula Zin. And then it has a picture of him.
That's nice. I do believe we make a high quality, superior product, because we start with the best grown fruit from the best growing regions in the areas. And we have our own, 16 years, 15 years worth of experience and trials and tribulations of messing up some and then really excelling in others.
How much are you producing here? Sure. What's your volume look like?
We're doing about 1,200 cases, and we've just increased our production 35%. We're also increasing our size, and so we're hiring salaried people here as well.
How can the community do more to support you, Damon?
Drink more wine.
Yeah. Good to see you again. I'm George.
Nice to see you again.
Yes, indeed. We are delighted that you're doing well, and we are proud of your accomplishments. We're trying to support the local distillery and winery and brewery industry to let people know that you're here in Montgomery County. How have you been received by the Montgomery County community?
It has been 110% gratitude from everybody. They see like the beginning of something big. Since December, when we released the first bourbon, literally it has been crazy.
Appointments, appointments, appointments.
Business is growing slowly and steady. 90% of the people who come here are Generation X and millennials.
Yes. Is that right?
Yes.
1,612 I sold, and I have 94% satisfaction.
I used to make only 300 gallons of fermentation a week.
Here we have a batch of bourbon fermentation. This is sour mash of corn, barley, and rye to make the perfect bourbon whiskey.
And now I can do 250 gallons of fermentation in one day. I cannot keep up. So I have 2 people who are working with me part-time basis. We expanding next door next year. I also get people who come here and ask me who have businesses in the county with the other part of the sales. Curious, why you sell and we can't? I'm a manufacturer. I'm the only business in this county allowed to sell liquor.
Manufacturer.
Yes.
What about the grain? Are you sourcing the grain locally?
Oh, this is a great thing. As a chef, I go from what I call it from the farm to the table, from the farm to the glass.
Yes.
I buy all my grains locally within 50 miles. Mm-hmm. Most of the grain is from Frederick County and Montgomery County.
Excellent.
Right here in the agriculture area of Montgomery County. He actually sold me 2 tons of wheat harvest in the county this summer. I made all whiskey. He actually told me he will harvest 7 acres of rye for next year for me. So he already planted. So next year I will have around 10 tons of rye to do rye whiskey. And then when we finish, I put it outside. Then I have a dairy farmer in Montgomery County who picks up my grain.
Yes.
And he uses it for animal
Spent
feeding.
mash.
Yeah, he gave it to his cows.
Mm-hmm.
So in a way, it's like almost zero waste.
Yep.
Very little zero waste.
Can you talk about the market for local craft spirits? Like, what do you think is possible over time?
I want to create one of the biggest distilleries in the state of Maryland, but it may not be in my lifetime. So I'm trying to have something for my family by having the best product, by having upsourced locally, by trying to bring Maryland back what it was before Prohibition. Keep in mind, I will never be Jim Beam. I will never be Maker's Smart, which is the same company. Yeah. But if everything goes well, I will be a small distillery producing a lot of alcohol for like maybe Maryland, Virginia, DC, Pennsylvania, maybe all the way to New York and down south. Every time we have people here, we don't encourage drinking. We encourage tasting good. Right. Encourage something that it was actually harvested in the state of Maryland, and these whiskeys were made here in state of Maryland. If I'm successful in Montgomery County, which is at high standards, I will be able to succeed anywhere else.
It's obvious it took a lot for these businesses to get to where they are today, but through their hard work and dedication, they drive the engine of economic growth and job creation here in Montgomery County. For County Cable Montgomery, I'm Susan Kennedy. Thanks for watching.
Check. Oh, you got it. Since I got rid of my car, I really enjoy walking.
Okay. Got it.
Getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates.
Oh, you're home early. You live with your mom?
That'll set your game back a few years. Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.